Okay. What I have here is a 1985 LTD. Of course, you can see I've done stripped this thing down. What I am doing is a poor boy alternator conversion kit. I won't mention no names, but I think the price is way too high. Right now, I have a total of, I want to say 175 bucks total into this. What I've done is took the radiator out, of course. This is the reason why all this is stripped. I'm not going to go ahead and go through the whole process of pulling out every little itty bitty screw. If you can't figure out how to take your side pairings off, you don't need to be doing this. You need to get somebody else to do it. What this is my cam. My cam's over there on the other side. This right here is my crank. Okay. Now, since I took all that out, I will tell you one thing. The hardest thing for this was the radiator hose. I have pretty much just cut this puppy right in half. It's no good. You're not going to reuse it anyway, because when it's all said and done, your radiator is going to have to kick out just a little bit, because it's going to have to make up the difference for the pulleys. Okay. The brackets I'm making, as you can see, I cut here and I cut up here. Now, this bracket, if the lighting is good, let me turn this other light on. Maybe it can be seen better, I don't know. Keep in mind, this is also the first time shooting a video on this. A buddy of mine suggested that I do it. Means that there's not that many 1985 LTDs done with this. I think one reason why is the LTDs have a lot more crap on them than, say, the Aspies or the Interstates or anything of that nature. But this is the bracket that I made for up here. This is part of it. I have not welded it and I have not slotted this here yet. This is all a mock-up. Same thing with this bracket here. This bracket up here is going to hold the top of my alternator. This bracket down here is going to hold the bottom of the alternator. Now, like I said, this is just an all mock-up right now. The pulley that I got, let's come over here, came from the UK, because for some odd dang reason, the United States does not believe in the metric system yet, although everything is pretty much metric now. I needed a 12 millimeter center bore in this pulley. All right, and I got the 4-inch instead of the 3.5. The reason why I did that is because we're looking at 2-to-1, 3-to-1 ratio. With the alternator pulley, which, by the way, I'm getting the same kind of pulley from the UK for my alternator too, except that's a 15 millimeter center bore, and it's 2.5-inch pulley instead of 4-inch. I'm pretty much going with the same size pulley that originally came on the alternator, other than the fact that that was a 3-ribbed serpentine belt. I'm going with a V belt. 2 reasons. The belts are cheaper. 2, they're a little bit thinner on the pulley. The downfall is there might be some slippage. Only time will tell. It's not like I'm riding this bike in the rain. I might get caught, but it's not like I'm gonna plan on riding the bike in the rain. Okay. When I get the other pulley from the UK, which will be about another 2 more weeks, by the way, this is cheap. This is not expensive pulley from the UK. Just do your homework. I had cut this out. It originally looked like that. This is your timing cover. This is what it originally looked like. This covered your timing cover. Of course, I got it upside down This side goes on the right hand side, but that's pretty much what it looked like. As you can see, I cut this out for the shank to fit. Fits right up in there nice and easy. This is what I used. It don't take a rocket science to do all this. How I mark this is, I'll demonstrate on this one here, since this is whole. How I mark this, as you can see, it's got a divot up here. I took me 1.25 inch socket because I did the measurements on the shank. From side to side, split it down the middle. I marked it off, splitting it down the middle. I got my mark set and discovered that this socket here is the perfect round point, just slightly bigger than the shank as far as being round wise. So all I did was take it, laid it up on there, and where I had my marks, and then I took my Sharpie, good old Sharpie, gotta love them, and made my line. Then I took my grinder, and if you can see part of a line right there. It's no big deal. I will clean this up smoother and everything, but that's pretty much about what it comes down to. This is for my crank. The alternator I got from AutoZone, which a good friend of mine works there. Go out here. It's probably going to get dark on y'all. This camera probably does not do good well in the dark. Go in the old trusty truck here. And let me get the alternator here. Flammable paint, or should I say high heat paint. Alright, my dog has drug the sawdust across the yard, or across my garage. This is the alternator, and this is the original pulley. I am going with the same size pulley. Actually, the pulley that I'm getting might be just a hair bigger than this. I don't think this is quite 2.5 inches. I think it's just a hair under 2.5 inches. But it's a 15 millimeter center bore. That's the shaft. If I'm lucky, the shank on it will sit right down in there. If not, no big deal. If it winds up being a flat pulley, say like this side, all I gotta do is just get me a spacer from Napa, slide that down on there, and away I go. I can also probably I'll cross that bridge when it comes, but I could probably grind that down if the other pulley has a shank on it like that one. I could probably grind it down a little bit more. The depth of this is probably as thick as that, so I just need to be careful as far as strength wise goes. But this alternator is one of the alternators that come in the kit. How I know that? Because I done took enough pictures off the internet and the web and realized and cross numbers, this alternator here is what comes in your kit. Now what I did with the alternator, this back ear actually came up and come out, and so you have a bowl hole here and a bowl hole here. You literally have to cut that off. Now when you buy the kit from this particular individual, it's already cut off for you. I did it. The alternator cost me 130 bucks. That was the most expensive thing. I've got some stock laying around that I'm doing my brackets with. I've got a home use cheap welder. You can see how cheap it is. It does the job. The part number on this alternator is 14946. That is the part number for this alternator. It is a 55 amp alternator. I'm not a big happy fan about 55 amp. I'd rather have bigger, although that's what my stator does put out, 55 amps. The reason why I'm doing this conversion is because my alternator is giving me telltale signs that it's going out, or my stator, should I say, it's going out. With that in mind, when I took the bike for a ride, it was a pretty lengthy ride. We're saying the voltage kind of went up and down, but pretty much stayed at around there 14.5, which is overcharging that battery, which is just an advanced auto parts battery. They're not the greatest batteries, but they do work. And as you can see, I got on my maintenance charger, plugged it up, walked away. Then the next day or two, I'm wanting to say the following a day or two later, I took her for a ride down the road, stopped at a store, and it was actually charging normal. It was charging like 13.2, between 13.2 and 13.5. It was charging normal. Shut the bike off, went in the store. Well, sorry about that. 13.2, 13.5. It was charging normal. Went back out after I got me a Coke and went down to a buddy of mine's house, which is from that store, I'd say probably about 2 or 3 miles. I feel like another sneeze coming on. 2 or 3 miles. And it was charging 11.5. And I'm like, okay, this bike is just charging all over the place. It's my stator. It's letting me know. It's giving me a warning. So, give me a minute. Let me get a drink. So, with that being said, I decided to do a poor boy alternator conversion kit. Now this video here is probably going to be broke up, chewed up, and spit out, and this is my first time doing one, so bear with me on it. When I get the pulley from the UK for the alternator, I will then take the alternator, mock it up on the bike, and get everything lined up, and then that's when I'll mark and weld my tab on there, and then basically pretty much bolt everything up. As far as the radiator hose goes, you can take one of your cut pieces here. Let's see. You can take one of your cut pieces here and basically get the size of it, inner and outer diameter, and you can just go to the auto parts store. Most of them will let you just walk back there, find whatever the hell you're looking for, get one extra long. You can find one with a slight curve to it. When you hook up your radiator back up there, you'll see how this hose lines up. And you just go to your auto parts store, get a hose, cut the shit, put some clamps on it, and you're good to go. When this is all said and done, the price I was quoted was $699. I found one for $599. What this kit comes with when you pay that kind of money is the alternator, your 2 brackets, your hardware. The hardware consists of your bolts for the alternator, and they got some nice looking little gizmo at the bottom to kind of push out your alternator. I've got an idea how I'm going to do that. When I get to that point, I'll show you. Now that part of it, I'll have to purchase. Everything else I've got laying around here, other than the alternator and the pulleys. But the kit, the high dollar kit, comes with the alternator, the brackets, the hardware, the belt, and the one pulley goes on the crank, which they run a 3-rib serpentine belt. When they do this, they tell you, let me get rid of this here. They tell you you'll have to cut one leg off your fan. Then they give you bolts right here for your fan, and they want you to drop it down real close to your radiator. All right. Now I am just barely fitting my finger between the coils and the fan blade, and you can see my finger is not that big and fat. I mean, well, I don't know, I got short little stubby fingers, but my finger is probably, I don't know, a ½ inch. I don't think I really even want to do that. What I think I might wind up doing, this is a 12-volt computer fan. All right. Now, I know this is small. This is something I had laying around that I tore apart. And I come up with the idea. Radio Shack, or even online, it don't matter. You measure from this point to this point, and then say from this point to this point. All right. You get your measurements, you get online, you even go to Radio Shack. I was told Radio Shack got them. Fans just like this, 12 volt, that big. You know, about as big as your original fan. And it works off 12 volt, which this here fan, this electric type of fan, actually draws less voltage than this does. So therefore you're saving even more voltage when you go to this. Now I want you to see, and I'll get down here, look at the difference. My shroud on this fan is actually taller than the fan itself. Now, well, I guess when I bolt it up, it'll be the same height. So my shroud, that's how big the fan's gonna be. And I don't need a shroud of this because it already comes with one. And all I gotta do is bolt it right here. Just like that on both sides. And of course, when I wire it up, I need to figure out which way the fan blades turn. And then obviously turn it that way. Now I can have it on the inside to where it sucks, or I can actually put it on the outside of the radiator, which I don't really want to because I got my grill on there, which helps protect my radiator. So I'll probably wind up putting it on the inside. But if y'all don't have that grill and them lights, you can put it on the outside. I think it'll look better on the inside so you don't see that fan. And like I said, this here, you're looking at probably 2 or 3 inches tall. Well, you're doing away with that. You can unbolt it, sit it off to the side. It's a good fan. Sell it, keep it, whatever you want to do with it. But this fan here will do the trick. And it will pull the same amount of CFMs as this will. Because it's going to be a bigger fan, you know, than this little guy here. Although I'll tell you right now, this little guy here puts out some CFMs. As of right now, I think this is a standstill point. I'm going to go ahead and finish grinding this side up over here. Get that off of there. And then mock all this up. Put this on. Oh, by the way, that bolt, this 12mm bolt that goes into the crank is half this length. I went to Lowe's, right down the hardware store. They have this bolt, which is 12mm by 1 1/4 pitch thread, and I doubled the length. That's all I did, because the other bolt is just as wide as this is. So I stick, sorry, this is hard to do with holding one hand. Stick the bolt through the hole. The end of the bolt came right to the edge. Okay. I said, well, what I need to do then is double the bolt, because the bolt goes in all the way up in there. It don't bottom out. It gave it enough room so where it don't bottom out. So all I do is double the bolt in length. So when I stick the bolt in there, it'll do just like that. And then it'll sit right in that crevice right there and torque it down to specs. Don't quote me on it, but I think the specs are 51 foot-pounds or inch-pounds. I have a couple of books on this, so I will check and see what the specs are to torque this down, because I do want it torqued down properly. The gaskets that are on this timing cover, as you can see, when I pulled this timing cover off, this gasket went palooey. All right, it's still reusable. I think what I need to do is just kind of pull it up and then reattach it back down, and then whatever excess is left off down here at this end, then I'll pull that off, or just cut it, trim it off. There's a gap here for the bolt, so I might have to trim that up or something like that. I don't know on this one here, because there's a gap there for that bolt hole too. I say bolt hole, it's actually more like a tab that it sits off into. I'm not really 100% sure on that, because I don't even recall seeing tabs on there. But that's how I'll do that. I have seen some guys sit there and say that they use the spray, it don't work. They use Permatex, it really don't work. Blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you use a little bit of black ATV Permatex on here, gasket sealer, whatever you want to call it, use the black. The black works the best. It also will look good on here because it's got a black gasket. And use very little. You ain't got to gob that shit up. Little goes a long way. It really does. And all that does is just helps keep this in place for when you struggle to get that back in there, because you got to stick it right up inside here like this, and of course make sure your wires are out of the way. And then on this side you got this hose right here that you got to slide in between that, which that attaches to your thermostat water housing. So just be careful. That's all. Just be careful. And when I get to the point, like I said, when I get the other pulley for the alternator, I will go ahead and show you the bracket, how I'm doing the bolt, because the bolt's going to stick out here. And I thought about just taking a piece of old round pipe, something like that, shove the bolt in. Here's a couple of bolts for an idea. And then shove that bolt in there as your spacer, and throw a couple of, nuts and washers on there, and go from there like that. That's one idea. I haven't come up with a clean way of doing it yet. Of course, all this stuff here will be nice and painted and pretty and everything else. And then my side cover will actually bolt back up, and you won't see the alternator. But I will tell you this much. Let's see, get the correct side here. On this side, you got your air vent, which is right here. And there's a tube that came up and then vented up into your fairing. You can kiss that goodbye. That ain't gonna work. I'm hoping just this right here will be enough, and everything can stay tucked out of the way. Not 100% sure yet, but we'll see what happens. But I think there will be enough room to keep that all tucked away. Here, matter of fact, here is the vent tube that attaches to that on that side, and then this side here runs up to your vent in the front, which is right here. And then, you know, of course it goes like that. And then it blows on you. I don't know. I got wind deflectors and everything else. I always kept the vents closed. Who the hell wants that going blowing on me? I know it gets hot sometimes riding, but I still don't want that blowing on me. Because you got that heat rising up and everything else, and that heat's gonna, that plastic don't deflect that heat. As you can see, I got murals on here. I don't like them. It's the way I bought the bike. I do like this right here. I don't know what you would call that. Here's another one right here. I got a couple of them. Here's another one here. I wouldn't call that scallop or reverse scallop because that's not really what that is. I call it feathering. I really don't know. Here's another one on the fender. I do like that, but I will tell you this much. This wintertime, it's going to be painted, and it won't be the original color or nothing like that. It is going to be painted, probably burnt orange. And then a friend of mine had gave me some old exhaust that come off of a 1200. As you can see, the size of that freaking pipe, as opposed to my little tips. This here is actually the original exhaust, except for the tips. The tips are different. The tips were single, these are doubles, but the exhaust is all original on this bike. This exhaust here does have a baffle in it, but he says it's extremely loud. Of course, you know, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is do an experiment on this. I have heard that you can paint on chrome, and being exhaust, you would need high heat paint. And I was told that this is the paint to get. VHT flame proof. Basically, this is good for 13 to 2000 Fahrenheit. I know this bike's not going to get that hot. This is called flat black, which is what I wanted. I actually kind of really want it matted, but I was told when I paint this, it will look matted. What I was told to do, sand it down, scuff it up real good, degrease the piss out of it with some type of degreaser, not gasoline or nothing like that, a degreaser, and then you know, get really super clean after you get done sanding it down. You don't have to sand it down with a heavy grit. Some of the guys were saying get 80 grit. Some of them were saying get like, you know, 100 grit or something like that, or even 120 or something of that nature. What you're basically doing is you're trying to create crevices in there so the paint adheres to the chrome. Now you can get in a can, spray can, it's clear. It's basically to make paint adhere to whatever you're painting. Now this is chrome. Not many people paint over chrome. So this is going to be an experiment. I'm going to sand these puppies down, and I'm basically going to use this paint because I cannot find in my town primer, excuse me, primer for a high heat. And I feel if I prime that and then put this paint on here, it's still going to come off. It's going to peel right off, especially right up here where it's closer to the engine. Back here, I don't think so, but up here will, because it'll be closer to the engine. So I'm going to use this as a primer and a paint. I'm just going to put several coats. Of course, I'm going to read the can because some people say that it needs to be baked. Well, my wife, and I say my wife, is not going to let me put that exhaust in the oven. So what they do is you paint it, you put it back on the bike, you run the bike for say 10 minutes or so, shut the bike off, let it cool down completely, run the bike again for like another 20 minutes or so, shut the bike off, let it cool down completely, then to go take a bike for a bike ride. Not long, you know, short distance or so, and then come back, let it cool off, and then by the next day, supposedly, this paint is baked on that exhaust. I don't know. You're not really going to see it on my bike because the exhaust is going to start basically from here and go straight back. So all you're really going to see is this to here. That's it. As far as what you're going to see painted, which is fine because I've got a lot of bling on this bike, and you won't know until I have it all back together. There's a lot of bling on this bike. And I want to kind of break that down. I like chrome, don't get me wrong. I love chrome, but too much chrome can be really gaudy. And I think with the murals and the chrome, this bike's gaudy. So I'm going to go with the flat black, the burnt orange, and the chrome. That's going to be my three primary colors. What I thought about doing, and I'm going to ask somebody that does airbrushing or paints by hand. There's a guy in this town that I was told to go see. He's really, really good. And he's not that bad as far as price goes, considering that this is all I'm wanting on the bike. Is these right here. I've already took pictures of them, where they belong and everything, and I want them to be identically the same what's on there. The eagle on my windshield, I'm going to leave that on there. I might have the guy kind of touch it up maybe a little bit, I don't know. And yes, that windshield was cut down. I did not do it. It looks like crap. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it, because it's not cut evenly and, you know, symmetrically on the curves and everything else, and it's got a big old chip up here. I'm not going to worry about it. Yes, the radio is out of it. They told me I couldn't put an aftermarket radio in this bike. It would not work. Well, guess what, folks? It works. It's just a little, it's, you know, you just got to learn how to figure things out. Take your time. Don't get in a hurry. You get in a hurry, you start fucking shit up, and, you know, it don't work. But if you take your time, you think about things for a little while, why you do it, you get to a point like, damn, I didn't think about that. What can I do? Stop. Do what I do. And I'm not telling you to go out and smoke, because it's not good for you. But stop, take your time, think about it, and then proceed on further. I have done my homework and research on the alternator shit. It's taken me a while because, one, I only got the weekends, and I just bought me a house. So the house comes before my bike does, you know. I got my garage. The bike's in here. I tore it down. I had to sit and wait. Trying to find me a freaking pulley for this crank. Finally found one in the UK. Now I gotta wait another 2 more weeks before I got it. I got it. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll be able to change that alternator pulley out to a V-belt. No problem. I got the alternator here in the United States. Surely to God. Well, I found out it's a 15 millimeter center bore. Nobody in this freaking town carries any metric. Matter of fact, ain't nobody on the internet carries metric that I found that it was actually really reasonable, because like you can go to Jag and I don't know what the hell are them other ones, 4x4 and Summit and all of them, and they got these outrageously priced fucking pulleys that are done up pretty looking and everything. They got that center bore, but I'm not paying 60, 70, 90 fucking dollars for a damn pulley. Look folks, let me tell you something. This pulley here came from the UK, solid aluminum. It's all CNC machined. It's perfect, perfectly balanced, everything. Lightweight because it's aluminum. It was like grand total shipping and everything to the States. I think I paid like, I don't know, $36 for it. Hello? That is the ideal pulley to have. It is exactly what you need. No questions asked. And it's cheap, it's aluminum, it's light, and it'll last. You know, or unless you wreck the bike and then, you know, you fuck shit up, but that's on you. The other pulleys that you see, they got thin little lines, they look like a spoked rim, and they're fancy looking and got some nice lettering etched on it and stuff like that. Who the fuck needs that? Because you're not going to see it. All right? Folks, look, listen to me. The radiator is covering every fucking thing up. The alternator, it's going to be covered up by the fairing. You're not going to see this shit. Or unless you get up inside there and look around and all that. But you're never going to see it. All right? Now let's get to the wiring. I've got wiring laying around here somewhere. Actually, I think I got it in the back of my pickup. I got some good gauge wire to run my hot wire to the alternator because it's not a one wire alternator. All right. When you get the alternator, take that pulley off. Well, no, let me put that pulley back on there. Help protect that shaft. Put this nut back on here. When you get the alternator, some of them will have, I don't know if you can see it there or not, some of them will have 2 or 3. I got 3. And your auto parts store can print that wiring diagram out. One's for a light, one's your hot wire, which is the one you need, and then the other one I think it works a gauge or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but you need the one that works the hot wire. It's what they call igniter wire. You run your igniter wire to this. So when you start your bike or turn the key on, as soon as you turn the key on, that wire will ignite that alternator. But in turn, some of you guys out there that are old enough probably know on the old Volkswagens, because I've done them a bunch of times, convert them over to an alternator and got rid of that fucked up generator. You got to run an igniter wire, and you got to have a light source or toggle switch or something like that in between it. So when you turn the key on, it ignites the alternator, and what'll happen is that light will either, trying to remember here, either come on or go out. I think it goes out once it ignites. No, I take that back. Yeah. When you turn the key on, the juice will run to the alternator. As soon as the alternator starts, it will turn that light out in the wire. So when I run the igniter wire, I'll run it up here somewhere, I don't know where, with just a light. Just one of them little round light deals. Run it into that, run it down to the alternator. The other wire, which is a charging wire, you can run that right directly straight to your battery. All right? And that comes off of here. Word to the wise. Get you a fucking breaker. Listen to me. Get you a breaker. And when you hook up that breaker, you need it. Let's walk around over here. You need it. This is your battery area right here. I got a lot of shit right here. You need it to be as close as possible to the battery on the positive side. That's where your breaker needs to be. Listen to me. Do anything, listen to me. Do that. Run your breaker as close as you can to the battery. That will save your fucking bike. All right? You can even run a fuse in there too. Figure out what the amperage is on your alternator that you're going to choose and pick, and you can run you an inline fuse on there. But I'm gonna tell you right now, get your damn breaker and put it right by that battery, as close as you can to the battery post without being on the battery post. That's what you need to do. So, with that being said, I'm gonna get back to grinding this other pan here, clean that one up, and also, as you can see, the dirtiness between the two. I did clean that up. I just basically wiped that down with a rag. I didn't polish it or nothing. And the nice thing is, my aluminum pulley matches it. Isn't that sweet? So, till now, I will talk to y'all later.